Well, welcome back to Disruptive Voices of the Pacific, and we're just on this huge series of sex, dating and relationships, only because you people keep watching and keep responding and giving feedback, and so there's just so much to talk about this. So I'm excited that we've been able to create discussions. Hearing your feedback that you're showing these to your children or in your youth group is really important, so thank you. But today we're having a discussion with the father, Daniel. We've had Daniel on a few times, thanks for coming back. And sitting outside are your two stunning daughters, just beautiful. And you've done just not beautifully physical, but inside too, because they've got character. But there's probably some guys that you don't want around your daughters, is that correct?
Definitely. Definitely.
Have you said no dating until they're 35 or,
Yeah, I think until they, have a college degree or something until they leave home. No, not quite like that. I think I'm a lot more open than my wife is, Sariana. She's just like, no to everything. Yeah. Whereas for me, I really want to protect and prepare my daughters for the real world. So I want to help them identify the right guy. Yeah, so if he's out there.
Well, the first thing you've done is been a fantastic father, because that sets the standard for them. Having men in our lives, and my dad's done that for me. And I just tell people I've never found a guy that measures up to my dad and my three brothers.
Cool.
I've got amazing men in my life and I'm not prepared to settle. So you've done a great job there. But unfortunately, there are different types of guys. And again, I just need to explain it, because people always, go, oh, you're down on guys. We're not anti-guys. We're anti-particular qualities. And this podcast and episode is to really just bring clarity and bring some wisdom as to why we don't want to be with these guys. And I've kind of listed a few different ones, and you might have different ones to add. But the first guy that I know you would never want your daughters to be around is the control freak. Now we're not talking about a guy who does, control something once or twice. These are habitual things, where he's controlling from what you eat to who you see, what you wear. Why is he so dangerous?
So from my daughter's perspective, I guess, and from my wife's perspective, they're autonomous beings, right? So they've got free will, just like I do. And if anything, from my daughter's perspective, I want to make sure that I brought them up in the right way, so that if we're talking about clothing, they know when to dress modestly, they know when to wear what they want to wear. If they're going to the beach, of course I'm not going to tell them how to dress. They should know how to dress. Eventually, I want them to be able to live their life and enjoy whatever they've got in front of them. The control freak, they'll do everything, like control money, control where they're going, what they're doing, what they're wearing. I guess it's on us as parents to bring up our children in the right way, so that when it's their time to be able to. So I've never put any significant constrictions on my daughters in terms of what they wear and things like that. I've made comments. Sometimes I'll go, Amelia, that might be a bit too much for church, or something like that, or Addison, like sometimes she'll maybe dress inappropriately for like a family thing, but it's not like, it's more just
gliding.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully I'm modeling that for their prospective husband or partner in the future, that, but some of it is that they just don't know. So I'm just trying to help them understand, like, hey, that wouldn't be the right thing to wear in that situation, culturally or something like that, But ultimately, like Amelia, she's 16 now. In 2 years, hey, she's gonna have to be able to make those decisions herself. And then, do I want a husband or a man telling her all of those things? In some ways, yes, but only in the ways that really truly matter, So I would love a man, for instance, you know, to be able to say, hey, I don't think that's the right place to go into. It's unsafe for you to go in there. I'd like to, maybe I'll come with you. Or, hey, have you got your friend to go in there? That's not a control freak. That's just trying to protect, you know, protect her. And so I think what we've done is we've kind of turned it in a lot of ways, and we've said, oh, any kind of advice or guidance from a man is trying to be controlling.
Yeah.
I think we've got to be careful
Yeah.
how we handle that, because I think it's part of our nature as men to want to protect and guide and provide for our the women in our lives. It's just when we take it too far and try and, you know, remove their autonomy, then that's when it's, you know, a problem. You know?
Yeah, and especially as young girls, they didn't actually think it's really romantic when the guy starts controlling. Oh, I don't want you to hang around your friends, just be with me.
Oh, that's so lovely. He loves me so much.
Exactly.
Until, like, you know, he doesn't want you to go out with your friends every night or something like that, you know. Or when he stops going with your family and things like that. So, yeah, there's limits to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
What about guys who are texting endlessly? Like, where are you? What are you doing now? What are you wearing? Is that...
That's why my daughters don't have phones. Yeah, no, I think, you know, there's control in so many different ways. So yeah, same thing, man. Whether it's verbally or whether it's via digital media or whatever it is, same thing. It's I think the young people would call it an ick. I mean, that's what I'd call an ick, you know? Like, doesn't he have better things to do than check up on you every 5 minutes? Like, go live your life, mate, you know? Let her live her life. When you guys are together, you're together. But when you're doing your individual things as individuals, let them be. You've got to trust one another. Otherwise, there's no relationship. You know?
Yep. The angry guy.
Yeah, this is a big thing for me, I guess, because I'm definitely a fruits of the spirit kind of person. Love, peace, joy, goodness, kindness, you know, patience, self-control. You know, like if a man cannot control his anger, cannot control their hands, whether it's to the partner or to just, you know, often, you know, you could be at a restaurant or something and someone could look at you the wrong way or look at your partner the wrong way. And if you are so thin-skinned that you have to react, whether it's verbally or physically, I think you got a problem with self-control. You know? And so you need to develop those things, you know. And I think it takes a lot of humility, a lot of meekness to be able to control your anger. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I don't want my daughters to be around, is violent men. There's a difference between someone who knows they're strong and is able to control it, and then someone that is strong and decides to push that on people. And so I feel like I'm a strong man, but I don't have to prove it in every interaction that I have. You know, so an angry man is no one I'd want my daughters to be around all the time.
And quite often anger is, it's just a fruit of a deeper root.
Yeah.
I know anger is definitely a byproduct of pornography. You know, it's research. The more porn you watch, the more angry you're going to be. So we have a generation of boys growing up in porn that are angry, that are fatherless.
Yeah.
So they've never been taught that, or if they've been abused and they're holding in trauma.
Yeah.
So again, we're talking about habitual patterns, because every now and then I get a bit angry at things too. But these are habitual patterns that, if you feel scared, run. If you feel like this man's anger is making you feel scared and unsafe, it's a big red flag.
No, I think so. You know, with my daughters, I hope I'm bringing them up in a way that they recognise those things. One, that they will be able to attract the right partner, should they wish, but also they'd be able to identify or discern the right characteristics in that husband or man that they want to be with. I think that's a big red flag, and it'll eventually show, you know, how they respond in situations. And typically for young men too, they want to prove to their potential partner that they can handle themselves, that they can protect them and everything like that. Let me just suggest this. If you are exposing my daughter to potentially dangerous situations and that you think you need to defend them, maybe you need to consider where you're going and what you're doing, rather than you being strong enough to defend her in that situation. You know, for me, it's not about showing how strong you are. Maybe it's just cultivating a spirit of discernment, and also if you truly want to protect your partner, making good decisions in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. The passive guy.
I think we've got too much passivity in especially the islands, and what it ends up, I think it's kind of like this balancing act. So if you're really passive, what happens is you'll have an overactive woman, and there needs to be that balance in there. And this is what we've discussed this about with World Needs a Father, an awesome movement that Tomasi Tiko is leading here in Fiji, and that we're really trying to roll out in our churches at the moment. But passivity is one of those things. It's as good as being absent as a man or a husband or a father in the household. And what happens is it gets filled, the void gets filled, typically end up with an overbearing wife or mother. And remember, there's consequences for a husband or a father not being involved as well. And so a father wound gets created where maybe identity is not conferred, or affirmation hasn't been granted, or moral authority hasn't been developed within the household, and that's a man's job, So you don't. My daughters, I don't want them to marry a passive man. I want them to marry a man that knows what he wants and a plan for the family, and has a vision and can lead spiritually and economically, and also provide protection and guidance for the family. So none of that is passive.
Yeah. I mean, what are the signs, of a passive teen boy, say 16 or 17? Can you see the signs of passivity at that age?
Yeah, I think, I've seen it in a lot of young men, and I think this is one of the cultural things that I struggle with, and it's not engaging in things. A lot of young men will just kind of withdraw. I really like young people that are just, there's a couple of them in our church right now, you might know them, but they're such awesome young men, and they really wear their heart on their sleeve, and they're able to talk. They're not hiding things away. I think passivity can lead to a lot of disguising things, so you could hide your trauma. You can also hide things like that you're kind of doing in the background, like pornography that we're talking about, but also unhealthy relationships, addictions like smoking or vaping, and or drugs and things like that.
Video games, is that
hey,
endless hours.
It's one of those things that's very close to my heart, is video games, but I kind of grew out of that a while back. But no, yeah, it's in a lot of ways, it's kind of just taking a back seat. You're no longer driving the bus. You're kind of up the back, and life is just kind of taking you. And you see a lot of it in Fiji. You see a lot of men that lack direction, lack focus. They're kind of just, the wind is taking them wherever it wants to take them. They got no control, no direction, no rudder.
Yep. No. It's not going to be an exciting future. The promiscuous guy, we've talked about the fruit of a lifestyle of sleeping around. Why don't you want your daughter with him?
So I think, we've talked about this at length. I think society has promoted this ideology that a more experienced man is far more masculine and more desirable by women. From my perspective, because I guess, we've modeled it in our own marriage, my wife and I, and so I don't want a man that's slept around with, 10, 20 women before he gets to my daughter. As if, like she wants this really super experienced guy. I want them to innocently discover each other, and go through the fun, awkward moments of headbutting and bumping teeth and chipping teeth or whatever it is, that's the joy of it all, We all think that, I need to be an expert at this or an expert at that. It's a lie. It's a lie, and unfortunately it gets perpetuated by, porn and other men, bragging about how many women they've slept with and everything like that. I go, check out the fruit of these men, check out the fruit. I can stand next to them and say, hey, I got a beautiful wife, married for 17 years, awesome children, serving in our church and all those kinds of things. I've got such a fulfilled life. And I didn't have to sleep with, I've slept with one woman and that's it, So and that's what I hope I model to some of the young men in church we were talking about. I hope that they seek that, and that's why I want my daughters. They go, hey, that's what I want for me as well. You know, so yeah.
And I mean, a lot of times I'm telling the girls that, you know, just because you get married doesn't necessarily mean he's going to stop being promiscuous either.
True.
Marriage doesn't fix that.
Yeah.
And that's been the story of many women that have been on this podcast. They thought that marriage was going to fix him. He'd stop sleeping around, but it doesn't. So, you know, it's a hard issue. And probably some other issues there too. Big red flag, ladies. Lastly, the commitment phobic guy. So the guy, you know, you've been dating for 17 years and still hasn't proposed.
Yeah.
I mean, if a guy was dating your daughter for, let's say, 6 years, would you be having a conversation to him, or would you just say to your daughter,
Definitely. No, 100%. And I think, you know, I just shared with you my I met my wife after 3 days. I knew she was the one for me. And after 3 months, I proposed. And she didn't say yes the first time. But I proposed again, 6 months later. But she knew my intentions right from the start. I said, and I think that could be the worst, especially if I could say, like, my daughters are young, you know, but I think if you're in your 30s and you're dating and there's been no thought of commitment, then why are you there? You know, from a biological clock perspective for a woman, you know, like, they want to have children potentially, right? So if you've got a man that is not showing an ounce of commitment, like, why are you wasting your time with that man? I would have these conversations early on. Declare your intentions right from the start, because I think life's too short to be playing games and, you know, I want to try before. Like, how long are you going to be together for? How long? So, you know, I proposed after about 8 months, but that didn't mean we got married straight away. Yeah. You know, we were still discovering one another. I just knew she had everything I wanted in a person, and I felt that I was the same for her. But we still had to be practical about that. But she had every faith, and she knew that I had made a commitment to her. And I think women, they need that. You know,
absolutely.
I think women need that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so.
But, you know, I just hear so many stories and different women sharing with me, especially since we've been doing these podcasts, where he does, early up, he says, yep, we're going to get married.
Yeah.
We're going to get married. But then, you know, 8 years later, literally 8 years later, we're still not married.
Yeah. So again, typically, and if I could say this and I've said this to my daughters, the reason why men will say that is to manipulate you into having sex. And so basically they're getting the benefits without any of the commitment. And I'm not saying you need to manipulate men by using sex as being the motivating factor for him to marry you. I'm just saying that if he's saying that and you're still providing sex for him, well, what's the incentive? Like, you know, it's meant to be something is enjoyed in the marriage bed, you know, not something that is, oh, okay, yeah, he's intending to marry me, therefore I'm going to give him whatever that is, you know. So as much as possible, don't move in with each other, don't have premarital sex, don't start sharing money and pretending to play house with one another, you know. Put a ring on it, make the covenant, go through your premarital counseling, do all that kind of stuff, you know. Do it properly. And I tell you, it honors God, it honors your parents, and it'll be well with you as well, you know, if you kind of follow those steps.
Yeah. Any other guy that you warn your daughters against? Qualities of guys?
Yeah, I think, I guess passivity, the one that comes to me is a lazy man, you know. I think what we see a lot of now is men that have given up on being men and just allowing women to lead in the household. And I think that's a big red flag. You go, oh yeah, he's a modern man. And I go, well, I don't think that's the man that is going to keep you happy and sustained. Because I think from my experience with my wife Sariana is that I would say the one area that I wasn't leading in early on in our marriage was in the spiritual side of things. She was far ahead of me in a lot of ways. I was very immature in that respect, She still loved me regardless, but she wanted that for me. She didn't necessarily have to tell me. I felt like God really said, hey, Dan, you need to sort this out. You're leading in every other aspect of your life except in church and spiritually. And so God did a work on me. And I think it was to my wife's benefit that happened. And also for my daughters as well. And so I think a lazy man, especially spiritually, is someone you want to stay away from if you're a Christian, God-fearing woman. You know, we talk about being unequally yoked. There are a lot of Christian men and women that are unequally yoked. There's a lot of fake Christian men that turn up on a Sunday, but really their head is somewhere else, you know, back at the rugby match or something like that. So you really need to test those things out early to see whether they're the genuine article. Otherwise, you could be marrying a counterfeit. It's going to give you a lot of heartache later on.
Absolutely.
You get married and he's no longer at church. He's not doing any of the things that he said he could do.
On that note, we better end. Time is up, so thank you, Daniel. We want to let you get back to your daughters.
No worries.
Some really, again, important information out there. The problem with these types of qualities in the guys, they can be cloaked in romance and good looks and everything. So this podcast is really to help both men and women be smarter, wiser, so that we can have a healthy nation with healthy relationships. So thank you. God bless.
Thanks, Letitia.